the man who hacked a nuclear facility and got away with it. On the night of June 3, 1998, a group of teenagers scattered across 3 continents broke into the computer network of India's most important nuclear facility. They didn't need years of training. They didn't need state backing. They needed a modem, a mailing software vulnerability nobody had bothered to patch, and about 2 weeks of planning. By morning, they had pulled roughly 5 megabytes of files out of the Babha Atomic Research Center, India's primary nuclear research facility, including scientists' private correspondence and analysis of the country's most recent nuclear tests. They replaced the center's homepage with a mushroom cloud and a message: "Stop testing nuclear weapons." The group called itself Millworm. Its most visible members were between 16 and 18 years old. None of them had ever set foot in India, and to this day, not one person has ever been publicly arrested, charged, or officially identified for what remains one of the most audacious breaches of a nuclear facility in history. This is the story of how a handful of teenagers hacked a nuclear research center and simply walked away. Chapter 1. The tests that started it. In May 1998, India detonated 5 nuclear devices in the Pokhran Desert. It was the country's first confirmed nuclear test in 24 years, and it triggered global alarm. Within weeks, Pakistan responded with its own tests. Around the world, a new generation of internet users, many of them teenagers who had grown up entirely online, watched the news with a specific kind of anger. One of them was a 15-year-old American, watching television coverage of the tests from his bedroom. He didn't need a passport to act on that anger. He needed a search engine. He typed a simple query, the equivalent of India Atomic, and within seconds, found the website of the Babha Atomic Research Center, the institution behind India's nuclear weapons program. Chapter 2. The first ones in. Using a widely available password cracking tool, the teenager, known online only by a pseudonym, T3K9, broke into one of Bark's servers in under a minute. He wasn't alone for long. Another hacker, going by Iron Logic, followed him in and found the same open door. Together, they quietly explored the network, planting backdoors that would let them back in whenever they wanted. Neither of them told the media. Neither of them wanted the attention. But word travels fast in hacker chat rooms, and within days a different group had heard about the opening and decided to walk through it. Chapter 3. Millworm takes the stage. That group called itself Millworm, a loose international hacktivist collective that had formed only months earlier. Its most visible members went by the names JF, from England, Venomous, from New Zealand, Savek Zero Re, from the Netherlands, and Keystroke, a 16-year-old from the United States. On the night of June 3rd, working from 3 different continents and routing their connection through a compromised U.S. military machine to cover their tracks, they used the same vulnerability, and, according to a later account, some of the same backdoors already left behind, to gain full administrative access to Bark's network. They downloaded roughly 5 megabytes of internal emails and documents, including scientists' discussions of the country's recent nuclear tests. Then they defaced the center's homepage with an anti-nuclear message signed by the group. They emailed a Wired news reporter, along with proof of what they'd taken, and within hours, the story was on wires around the world. Chapter 4. The credit nobody deserved alone. BRC officials initially denied any breach had occurred. Within days, they were forced to admit it, while downplaying the severity, claiming the emails contained nothing confidential. Scientists who reviewed a sample of the leaked material disagreed, describing it as advanced nuclear physics. The story exploded internationally. CNN, MSNBC, and the Associated Press all covered it, crowning Millworm the hackers who had broken into a nuclear weapons research facility. What most of the coverage missed, and what only came out later in a Forbes investigation, was that Millworm hadn't found the opening themselves. According to that account, the door had already been kicked in by 2 other hackers, the 15-year-old and his accomplice, days earlier. Millworm had simply been the first to call a reporter. Chapter 5. No one ever caught. In the weeks that followed, as many as 100 other hackers are believed to have exploited the same unpatched vulnerability, wandering in and out of Bark's compromised servers. Scotland Yard opened an investigation into JF, the group's most outspoken member, who was still a teenager living in England. No arrest was ever publicly announced. The original intruders, the 15-year-old and his accomplice, were never named publicly at all. Millworm disbanded not long after, its members drifting into different corners of the internet. One of them, Keystroke, would resurface years later under a new alias, running a website that published hacking tools for security researchers. To this day, no government has confirmed an arrest, a conviction, or even an official identification tied to the 1998 breach of India's nuclear research center. Closing. It remains one of the strangest facts in the history of cybersecurity. A group of teenagers, working from bedrooms on 3 continents, broke into a nuclear research facility using a vulnerability so basic that 100 other people stumbled through it behind them. They did it to make a political point. They got the world's attention for exactly that reason. And when it was over, every single person involved, the ones who found the door, and the ones who walked through it and took the credit, disappeared back into anonymity. More than 2 decades later, nuclear facilities around the world are still probed, targeted, and occasionally breached by hackers, state-sponsored and otherwise. But the case that started the conversation, the night a nuclear research center was hacked by kids who should have been in school the next morning, has never been closed. Every story leaves a trace. This has been traced.